The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Mr. Seah, Kian, Peng.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, under the Mental Capacity Act, provisions can be made for individuals who lack capacity to manage their affairs. This bill amends the MCA so as to establish a simplified electronic process for the creation of lasting powers of attorney, which allow individuals to appoint persons to make decisions on their behalf should they lose their mental capacity to do so themselves. It is certainly a useful legal instrument that was introduced in 2010. But the number of persons who have made it is not high. As of 2018, only about 23,000 Singaporeans above 65 have made their LPA. This low number could be due to a number of reasons. One often cited is a stigma about speaking about death. Understandably, we might not be comfortable discussing the possibility that we will be unable to make decisions for ourselves. Talking about end-of-life matters is still seen as a taboo or inauspicious for some. It is human nature. We say we will do it, but most of us will procrastinate and end up not doing it. These are important matters, whether it's making a will or LPA, but we don't pay enough attention to it. Some years ago, my wife and I finally accompanied each other, and we did both. Since then, I could say so to a lot of people with stronger conviction, whether it's to friends or residents, why they should do it, and do it now, not tomorrow. We do this certainly not for our sake, but for the people that matter to us, our family and loved ones. In the long term, with an aging population, these conversations will increase in frequency, whether in public forums or private spaces. As unpleasant as the possibility may be, in the event that someone can no longer make their own decisions, an LPA empowers their close relatives to act on their behalf. For elderly individuals or couples without family support, the professional deputies and donee scheme provides a source of potential donees for an LPA. Another reason for the low numbers might be a lack of public awareness. So MSF has been promoting LPA through community centers, senior activity centers, and radio channels. However, members of the public might be unfamiliar with what an LPA entails or are confused by the decisions needed, what powers to grant donees, whether multiple donees should act jointly or separately, and so on. For this, we will need to step up outreach and publicity efforts. Although events and roadshows are a good idea, awareness tends to fade if they are not sustained over time. Furthermore, the effectiveness of in-person events may be limited by evolving safe distancing measures. Last, I think perhaps the most likely is just a lack of attention. Our bias is to ignore the long term or to shy away from thinking about difficult topics. This cannot be fixed by more public dialogues or information and education. It requires each of us to decide for ourselves that we need to be responsible and aware of our own mortality and to prepare for it. LPA is certainly a useful instrument which deserves to be better known and more widely used. At the same time, even as we promote its use, we should see its limitations. Under the Mental Capacity Act, a donor can confer on the donee the authority to make decisions regarding the donor's welfare, property and affairs, if the donor becomes unable to make these decisions themselves. Currently, the process requires hard copies of all documents and physical meetings between donor and donee. For most of us, we will find making LPAs digitally much easier and more convenient. With the amendments, parties do not need to physically meet up to sign and exchange documents. The use of SingPass also means that the user's details are automatically entered, making it more convenient for LPA to be made, while not compromising on data security. However, I do have the following concerns on the proposed amendments to the Act. First, it concerns access. We need to ensure those who are less tech-savvy are not left behind. As mentioned earlier, The elderly are a prime target audience for LPA to be made, yet many of them may be unfamiliar with the tools or even terminology that's used. For example, they may not know how to navigate the SingPass app or website with the two-factor authentication. Well, SingPass now allows users to sign into family members' accounts. Not all elderly have family members on hand to help them. Yes, MSF will assist those who have difficulty navigating the UpGo system by making internet-enabled devices and trained staff available at community centers. This ensures that people do not have to venture beyond their neighborhoods, making the process quick and easy. However, not all CCs will have these facilities. For those who need help, traveling further to an unfamiliar place may greatly discourage them. In fact, I know it does, especially for the elderly. If help was available at all CCs, I am sure it would lead to a greater take-up rate. So I hope the ministry can consider this suggestion. Yes, I recognize more resources will be required, but I believe it will be monies well spent. Still, even with various forms of assistance and accessibility measures, the 5 steps of the UpGo process may be hard to track, with multiple notifications and confirmations. For this, giving donors a physical checklist of the steps involved and the stage they are at, similar to reminders on vaccination cards, may be useful. Next, I want to touch about scams. Besides improving accessibility with more services and applications transitioning online, we also need to watch out for scams, which are getting increasingly sophisticated. For now, there are safeguards in place, such as SingPass users being prompted to verify the authenticity of websites before logging on. However, scams are getting more complicated, with fake websites resembling other government agencies' websites being reported. We must keep our guard up and prevent such scams. Some elderly individuals or those who are less tech-savvy, they might request friends or family members to help them with the submissions. I think this is quite normal in the course of business. While the majority of such cases will be safe, there could be those who abuse their trust and appoint themselves as donee. I would like to know what safeguards are in place to ensure that the donee appointed is the one intended by the donor. Additionally, the current proposal's default setting is to treat the e-copy of the registered LPA in UpGo as free from error and as the LPA if there is no notification of any error within 90 days. While this method might be administratively expedient and helps saves time, certainly it does, given that this is such an important document, I think we should instead make it an affirmative confirmation by the donor that all details are correct. That is to ensure that the consent is active consent. The security and sanctity of the LPA are worth the increase in administrative work, in my opinion. Finally, I'm heartened to hear that there are safeguards in place should there be reason to suspect that someone was pressured or deceived into making an LPA, especially if the donor lacks mental capacity. In such cases, the public guardian can disclose to the donor the number of LPAs for which their prospective donee has already been appointed, to allow them to make a more informed decision. This safeguard, I feel, can be made stronger, and we shouldn't subject the public guardian to have such a heavy responsibility. The public guardian should not really have to exercise judgment about when to step in. Instead, as long as the donee is a multiple nominee, I think this must be disclosed to the donor. With the disclosure, the donor can then decide if he or she wants to continue making the LPA with this donee. In the long run, as we improve, assess and strengthen safeguards against abuse of process, hopefully more people will make an LPA. Notwithstanding these suggestions, I support the proposed amendments. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.